Welcome to the AI for Business podcast, where entrepreneurs learn how to turn AI into their competitive advantage. I'm Francis Ablola, co-creator of AI for Business. In today's episode, I sit down with Jason Feifer, editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine, best-selling author and investor. We recorded this conversation at our AI for Business virtual summit, where Jason shared critical insights on how to position your unique voice in a world where everyone has access to the same AI tools. Let's get started. Now, I have the great honor of bringing up our next speaker. And the reason I'm excited about this, and I'll tell you a quick story about myself, is that I am one of those guys who always wanted to be a business owner, to be an entrepreneur, to actually see something that we build and get out in the marketplace. I truly believe entrepreneurship is what changes and drives this country. And that's why the reason why we created AI for Business and the goal to become the premier source of training and education for entrepreneurs all across the country in the world of AI. And so we have this mission. We've been entrepreneurs for a long time. And when I was a teenager, I remember myself going through bookstores and picking up a copy of Entrepreneur Magazine. And I would do that every single month because those stories inspired me. And I think one of the most important things as inspiration and ideas, that's what drives us as humans and gives us motivation to do more than what we believe we can become. And so I would love to bring on and introduce our next speaker, Jason Feifer. He is the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine. He is an author of Build for Tomorrow, which is an action plan for embracing change, adopting fast, and future-proofing your career. He has an amazing newsletter called One Thing Better, which I love this concept. It's a weekly newsletter where you learn one thing to improve in your career or your business. He is a speaker, a podcaster, an entrepreneur, and a startup advisor. So please help me welcome to the AI for Business Summit stage with a massive round of virtual applause, Mr. Jason Feifer. Jason, are you there?
Hey, well, thank you for that incredibly generous welcome. And hey, everybody, I am really, really happy to be here. I'm going to drop a link to that newsletter in the chat here for everybody. I really appreciate, Francis, you shouting that out. I'm so excited to be here and to support everybody.
Awesome. And I love that you're here again. You know, entrepreneurship to me is job one. We train so many entrepreneurs all over the country. We train thousands of entrepreneurs in our trainings. And we have, so many people on here who are either different stages of being entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. We've got people who are just starting out. We have people who've been in business for years and years and years. We have people who are looking to become an entrepreneur or just a working professional looking to level up. And I know you have a lot in that area right now. And so I would love to ask you, because you interview amazing entrepreneurs on a regular basis. Now with what you do at Entrepreneur Magazine, how has that changed your perspective about entrepreneurship? And like, what kind of patterns do you see in really successful entrepreneurs?
Oh my God. Well, so much to say. First of all, how did it change my perspective? What it changed my perspective on, honestly, was myself. That's what it changed my perspective on. Because before I got to entrepreneur, I was a media guy. I've worked at a lot of different national publications, and I thought of myself as a media guy. Over the time in which I've been an entrepreneur, I've been running it since 2016. I started spending a lot of time with entrepreneurs. I started to absorb the way that they think. I started to be an entrepreneur myself. I now have a couple different companies that I run and a whole lot of different lines of revenue. And to me, the greatest shift, the greatest mind shift that I went through for that transition was this. It's best captured through this moment a number of years ago. My wife and I wrote a romantic comedy in 2018. It came out, it was called Mr. Nice Guy. And when this romantic comedy came out, we got two different kinds of reactions. Our writer friends, they would say, "Congratulations, that's so awesome that you came out with this book." And our entrepreneur friends would say, "Well, that's interesting. What are you going to do with that?" And I couldn't figure out what was happening until I realized this. I realized that entrepreneurs think vertically and everyone else thinks horizontally. So I used to be a horizontal thinker. I used to think I make something, I put it out in the world and I move along. I make something, I put it out in the world and I move along. Entrepreneurs think vertically. They think everything that I do should be the foundation upon which the next thing is built. And that's why they couldn't understand the romantic comedy, because they were like, well, what does that lead to? Are you going to start a school in which you teach people how to do, like romance writing? Like, what is it, And the honest truth was that at that time, I didn't think like that. Now I do. Every decision that I make is done with a logic of how does this drive a particular goal of mine forward? And that level of rigorous thinking is unusual. But once you start to spend time with entrepreneurs, you start to get it. And I've found that the most successful entrepreneurs are always thinking about building, and not in not just in one direction, but they're always thinking about how do you leverage and utilize the time and the effort that you have towards greater things.
I love that. I love that. And your work with entrepreneurs, I think one thing that would be really impactful for those listening in, those who are entrepreneurs now, is how to stand out in the marketplace and kind of vertically think their way through where they are now to where they want to become. And you're a master storyteller, by the way. I've been reading your newsletter, which I absolutely love. And you tell one story and you lead into this lesson. And so I would love to know from you, like, what can somebody do to tell their story and stand out in this marketplace? Because I know you're a master storyteller. I know you're an author and a writer. How does somebody brand themselves with their message and their personality in today's super crowded space?
Great question. Okay, here is the first thing you need to think about. I call it the first question. All right. Whenever anybody encounters anything, whenever you, who watching this right now, thank you for being here with me. Whenever you walk through the store and see a product on the shelf, whenever a email newsletter shows up in your inbox, whenever you start a new television show, whenever you join a program like this, you are thinking one question. It is the first question. And that question is this: is this for me or is this not for me? It's that basic, that simple, right? Is this for me or is this not for me? And you, as a person who puts something out into the world, need to be anticipating that everyone is asking that question, and then you need to answer it before they even get there. That is the start. So once you start to build in that awareness, healthy anxiety, I always think of that there's a chance that you will lose people if you do not always signal to them that you are for them. Then it starts to shape the way in which you communicate to them. So storytelling is incredibly important, because storytelling is a orienting mechanism. People don't tend to remember information, but they remember stories. And so if you give them a story that they relate to, and then you give them information, they can attach the information to the story because the story is something that attaches to them, and then they'll remember it. So you'll see in the way that I even talk here, right, Francis, when you had asked me that first question about like, what have I learned, right? What did I do? I opened with an acknowledgement of the audience and your needs. I told a quick story that orients you, and then I gave you this payoff of this idea of horizontal or vertical thinking. You will remember the horizontal and vertical thinking more because it made sense in the context of the story that I told you. So we always have to be thinking about how to pair stories with ideas, and those stories always have to be really, really focused in on either a surprising experience that somebody can relate to or be curious about, or you're putting your audience in some way into the story. So if I say that I experienced something or I tried this, what I'm really doing is I'm taking you, the audience, I'm putting you in my shoes. I'm living you in my story. And then I'm always thinking, you're always asking, is this for me? Is this not for me? Which leads to one more thing, which I want to share with you before I shut up in answering this question, which is the way in which I tell stories and the way in which I communicate anything, including this answer that I've been giving you right now, is a structure that I call bricks and mortar. And if you want to understand storytelling, then you've got to understand bricks and mortar. And as I tell this, I will try to also see if I can find my my write-up on bricks and mortar so that you can see it. Bricks and mortar is like this. Bricks and mortar is a structure for the way in which you tell a story or communicate information. So here it is right now. So you can read more of it. And it goes like this. Bricks are facts. So whenever you're communicating something, you're telling a story, this happened, this is true, whatever that is, that's a brick. Mortar is how you connect the facts in a unique way for your audience. The mortar is the contextualization that you are putting into whatever you're communicating. So when I tell a story, for example, I will tell you some facts. This happened, but that story by itself is not actually that relevant to the audience unless I get to the mortar. And the mortar is where I turn to the audience and I say, and here's what I learned from that, or here's what you should be thinking about that. I am always, in every answer that I give when someone's asking me a question, in everything that I write, I'm telling you some piece of information, and then I'm contextualizing it for you and for you, the audience. And I'm saying, you're wondering if this is for you or not for you. It is for you, and here's why. And then I go back to more bricks, and then I go back to more mortar. And once you start to think about layering information like that, then you are constantly signaling to people about your relevance to them, and you have their attention, and then you can drive them towards the ultimate result, which would be a purchase of a product or service.
I absolutely love that. And so, Jason, my background's as a direct response copywriter. And so earlier this morning, we did a whole session on direct response copywriting and using AI and storytelling. And I love the analogy or the imagery of bricks and mortar because immediately it sticks it, right? It
Yeah.
ties everything in. So that's an incredible thing. And so on the topic of storytelling, on the topic of building that, I want to move into AI a little bit because I showed everyone, I took 20 years of my life mastering the art of copywriting and direct response, and I showed them how to copy my success in 30 minutes using Claude and AI. So can you tell me what are your thoughts on AI and how it's kind of reshaping storytelling or entrepreneurship in today's world right now?
Yeah. So I have a theory about how AI is going to change everything. And I call that theory break things that are already broken. And I'll tell you a story, as I've promised that I will always do. And the story is this. About a year and a half ago, I was hired to speak at a law firm's corporate attorney retreat. So I get on stage in front of like a room full of 300 lawyers, which is scary. That's a scary experience. And I tell them all about how to navigate change and give them frameworks and exercises. And then we get to Q&A. And I ask if anybody has questions. People raise their hands. Every lawyer is asking me about ChatGPT. Every lawyer. And I didn't expect this. I got off stage and I went to the CEO of the law firm and I said, it's fascinating that every lawyer here seems to be obsessed with ChatGPT. Why is that? And he said, I'll tell you what they wouldn't say out loud, but they were actually thinking. What they were actually thinking is ChatGPT can make motion writing, right? The act of writing legal motions faster and more efficient. And by the way, let us disclaimer: don't use ChatGPT right now to like write legal motions. It is not there for that. But that's what people are experimenting with. He's afraid that they'll get to the point where it can do that. At which point, well, their work becomes faster, and lawyers work on billable hours. So the thing that they're really concerned about is that the AI is going to make their work faster, and they're not going to be able to bill as many hours. And that's what they're concerned about. And I said to him, that is fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. And not in like an anti-lawyer way, right? It's instead, the reason why that's fantastic is because if we were all in a room right now and I said, raise your hand if you love billable hours as a way of paying for an expensive legal service, no hand would go up. Everybody hates billable hours. But the thing is that we've all had billable hours. Why? Here's why. Because if something breaks in your home, you throw it away. But if something breaks in your business, you tend to keep it. Why do we do that? The answer is because we aren't often incentivized to come up with something new. So it didn't make sense 10 years ago for a law firm to step out and say, people don't like billable hours, so we have a new way to do it. It wouldn't have made any sense. People are often incentivized to keep doing the thing that they've always been doing, even if that thing is broken. But now we have AI. And AI is going to challenge some of the fundamental assumptions that we have about the work that we do and the way in which we do it. And what it is going to do, it is going to break things that are already broken. So billable hours is already broken. And now somebody like that law firm perhaps has the opportunity to step up and say, I can create something new that actually solves people's problems for now. And that is the opportunity that we're in. So I am seeing this across the board in all sorts of ways. It's extremely exciting. I love that you are taking the skills that you have and you're figuring out how AI can either complement that or make that more efficient, because the skills that you have are not the same as the execution of those skills. Those are different things. And so if you can figure out how to make the execution of those skills more efficient, then you free up time that you can spend better utilizing your skills. So we always need to be thinking about how we can break things that are already broken. And that's why I'm enthusiastic about AI.
I love that. So in your experience working with entrepreneurs or even some of the startups you consult yourself and advise, where do you see the biggest uses for AI for someone who's not using AI right now? What are the things or what are the trends that companies are really pushing in, even inside of generative AI or outside of generative AI? Where are people putting these applications to use?
So it's going to be a little different for everyone, and we're still in a moment of great experimentation, and that's great. Like everybody here, right? You've all come together because you're very interested in AI and you're trying to figure out how it can be utilized in your business. I want you to think of AI as a microwave oven, right? Like AI is it's this magic technology. No, it's a microwave oven. And here's why it's a microwave oven. Because a microwave oven is incredible technology. Try to explain a microwave oven to someone from 100 years ago. You can't. It's like it's a box and it heats up. It doesn't make any sense. It's a microwave oven because there was probably a time when everyone thought, I can make everything in that microwave oven. But now what we understand is that the microwave oven is amazing technology that we do not use for everything. The microwave oven is for some things and it is not for other things. Or maybe it's for part of the meal, but not the whole meal. And we are in a moment right now of experimentation where we are figuring out what AI is for. And for example, I'll tell you one of the things that I do with AI, which has been really, really awesome. So, I'm a writer by trade. I'm a storyteller by trade. But I know that in today's distribution systems for stories, nobody cares about the thing that I wrote unless, for example, I can write a great email subject line, right? I could write the greatest email in the world, but if it doesn't have an amazing subject line, then I cannot get anyone to open it. And so I need to start thinking about how to distill the value of the thing that I wrote down into a couple words. That's hard for me. That's a little bit outside of my skill set. And you know what? Even if it is somebody else's skill set, you're still taking guesses. We can A/B test things, but that means that you've got to fill the A/B test with 2 guesses. And you don't know which one of them is going to be right. And that is kind of scary because it means that all of our work is riding on a very, very small input. So I have started to use AI to solve for this problem. And I'm going to show you how, because it's really cool. So I am I'm an advisor to a startup called CrowdWave. I just dropped a link to it in the chat. CrowdWave is AI consumer research. So it enables, let's say that I wanted to survey 1,000 of my newsletter subscribers and ask them which of these 10 or 20 email subject lines, there it is, thanks, which of these 10 or 20 email subject lines they would be interested in opening. So I can tell this CrowdWave, market research at the pace of business, says, because this is market research, instead of interviewing people, it's interviewing AI that can think like people. So I can say, I want to talk to entrepreneurs and people who care deeply about their careers. And I want to segment them. I want to ask 100 entrepreneurs and I want to ask 100 people who care about their careers. And I want to ask them the following question. Imagine that you subscribe to a newsletter called One Thing Better, which helps you build a career or company that you love and make you more satisfied. An email arrives with this subject line. Do you open it? And then I give it like 20 options. And then I see which ones do best in this survey of AI that's thinking like consumers. And it will tell me which ones it's more interested in than others. And sometimes it surprises me. And then I will take the top 2 winners, and that becomes the actual live A/B test that my email goes out to. And this has significantly increased my open rate. It is amazing. Wow. So like that right there is a perfect use of AI. It's not replacing the core skill that I have, but it is creating efficiencies and value add in spaces that, number one, I'm not best at, but two, value that literally didn't exist before. So I'm really, really excited about that. And that's a way in which I see you marry the thing that you do best with the opportunity that didn't exist before.
I absolutely love that. On the first day of this summit, we actually talked about market research and the importance of market research in your business and how people kind of skip out on that.
So
So
important.
what your tool does is shortcuts the whole going out and finding and giving that information right away to the audience that needs it, to your business that you need it.
Yes. And let's, what you just said there is really important, because let's back up and apply the microwave to this analogy, right? In the microwave, not everything gets cooked in the microwave. Not everything gets done in AI. So I wouldn't suggest, like, Francis, I'm so glad that you guys talked about consumer research. Could not be a more important subject. Truly transformative. If you are not talking to your consumer, then you are not serving your consumer. You need to be doing that. But there are times in which that can be automated. So I would never say, stop talking to your consumer, just talk to AI that thinks like your consumer. That's a crazy idea. You shouldn't do that. But the way that CrowdWave is thinking is, CrowdWave is for those moments in which it would have been too complicated or too expensive to survey consumers, right? So I could never survey consumers about my email subject line. I don't have the time. I'm not going to spend the money on that. That's ridiculous. But I can use AI to fill in that little gap. But I also want to make sure that I'm having real life conversations with my email newsletter subscribers to understand who they are, what they need. They're going to bring ideas in that AI could not anticipate, right? Like, you have to remember that AI is trained on us. So it is constrained inside the box of whatever we have already produced and created in the world. But people are exponential growers and thinkers. We will always be creating new things. So you have to be talking to real people, but you can also use AI to fill in these moments in which you can't talk to them.
That's phenomenal. And I actually want to go back to your newsletter as
Sure.
we're mentioning that. Let me pull it up here. So you have the concept of the one thing better, which is a phenomenal concept. I'm a true believer in constant and never-ending improvement. Now, many people on this call right now feel overwhelmed with AI. There's just so much information going on in this space. How can you take the idea of one thing better and put it into the idea of using AI in your business if you're just getting started with AI?
So what a great question. Here's why I called it one thing better. Honestly, it goes back to an insight that I had when I was getting married. My wife and I were planning our wedding. Anybody who's gone through that knows that is a terrible experience. There's a million things to decide on. There's a lot of opinions. The parents get involved. And I was trying to figure out, what do I want to really care about and put my energy towards? And I started to think, when I have gone to other people's weddings, what do I remember about those weddings? And what I realized was, I remember maybe one or two things about each wedding, right? Like my best friend's weddings, I remember one or two things, because that's all we tend to remember. We don't actually remember that much. I don't know if everyone knows this, but your brain is a deletion device. Like, its primary job is to delete things, because you have a finite amount that you can, like, retain at any one time. And so your brain is trying to make these decisions about, like, what is useful information that will carry me forward and what is information that will just bog me down and hinder my ability to absorb information that matters. So we're forgetting things all the time. So I thought, okay, if I only remember one or two things from each wedding, then the people who come to my wedding will only remember one or two things. So I should really only care about the one or two things that I want them to remember. And that totally changed the way in which I approached my wedding. Now I apply that same logic to everything else that I do. So people pay me a considerable amount of money to stand on a stage for 45 minutes in front of an audience of, 500 or thousands of people and talk. I've seen many speakers try to jam as much as possible into their talk, and they'll hit you with a million facts and figures and all this stuff. People are going to forget all of that. I structure my talks in which I'm telling you, like, 3 or 4 things, each of which is structured in the same way, roughly the way in which I continue to communicate with you on this call, which is a big idea, then a story that illustrates it, and then some kind of exercise or kind of tactical take-home thing at the end. That's what I do. And I only do that 3 or 4 times across 45 minutes. And if I walk off of that stage and tomorrow somebody remembers one thing that I said on the stage, that's a success, because probably they'll remember 0 things that other people said on the stage. So that's how we have to shrink down. Now, you have to take that logic and apply it to literally everything that you do. So if you have a brand, you cannot tell people 17 things that that brand does. They don't care. They can't remember. You tell them one thing. One thing. You got to figure out what is that one thing that you do that solves their problem and hit them on it. I was thinking to you, this was prompted by you asking about my newsletter, One Thing Better. I was thinking people are overloaded by their inboxes. They get these newsletters constantly. It has a million things in there. They can't remember anything. I want to promise them that opening my newsletter is a calming experience. I'm not going to overload you. It's going to be one thing, and that's all you need to focus on. And because it's one thing, I don't put this burden on myself where I've got to load them up with a million things. Just one thing. Just one thing. Now, you guys are also, Francis, you had asked, well, people are feeling overloaded. How can you apply that logic? Here's the way. If you try to do too many things, you will do none of them. So when I coach, for example, people on how to build personal brands on LinkedIn, I post on LinkedIn every single day. Do not start like that. Do not start like that. You will never do it. If you set out and you're like, I'm going to post on LinkedIn every day, you're going to give up immediately. How about this? Post on LinkedIn once every 2 weeks. Can you do that? Then let's move it to once every week. And then let's go. So right now, I would say if you're feeling overloaded by AI, pick one thing. One thing that you've heard during this entire experience, you've had one of them, and just try that. And once you get a handle on that, what will happen is that it's not just about orienting yourself to that tool, but now you're going to start orienting yourself to ways of efficiency. And you're going to start to develop kind of new on-ramps for your work, and you will discover new solutions, and the entire thing starts to move a lot faster. We need to simplify how we communicate, and we need to simplify how we experience.
That's phenomenal. And so I'm pulling up away. I'm not just taking one thing away, by the way. I'm taking a lot of things away.
But
The way you explain virtual. I have more than one. We have the vertical versus horizontal and the way to look at businesses, entrepreneurs. We've got the brick and mortar of storytelling. We have using AI and human responses together. We have the 3 big ideas and 1 big takeaway. So I do want to give you a chance to give us one big takeaway. So right now in the world of entrepreneurship, what is the biggest thing that we should be focused on as entrepreneurs, as new entrepreneurs, as experienced entrepreneurs, that in the new world moving forward, what you guys are focused on Entrepreneur Magazine, what's the one big thing that we need to be looking toward right now?
Connection. The answer is connection. So here's a really important thing to recognize. We are in a moment of infinite connectivity. It is possible for you watching this right now to go onto LinkedIn, let's say, and send a DM to literally anybody, right? Anybody, the CEO of every major company, you could send a DM to them. They may not respond though, because the thing is that when we have infinite connectivity, we become overwhelmed by connectivity. So we start to back away from it. And I think we right now are in this strange moment where people feel connected but not connected. Everybody's kind of like in the same room but also alone. And they're not exactly sure what to do about that. And part of the reason for that, I think, is because we're doing connectivity wrong, right? Sending a bunch of cold DMs to people is not really connectivity. It's not. It's just the new version of junk mail is what it is. So we need to be thinking really hard about how we build true, honest relationships with people, with our customers, with our partners, with our teams. We are now entering into a digital age with AI, where it's not just hyper interconnectivity, but it is also going to be hyper access to information and hyper creation, because we can create anything with generative AI now. All of this, I think, is going to increase the premium on true human one-to-one connection, because we're never going to look. Sometimes people worry about like, oh, AI is going to replace people. It's not going to do that. We will always want that human connectivity. And I think it is the entrepreneurs and the brands who do the best job of understanding their audiences and engaging and connecting directly with them, and even building real communities with them, that are going to win. I see this happening in the work that I do now. I do a lot of community building myself. For example, one of them is I have a company which I just dropped in the link, which is called CPG Fast Track. It's a group coaching for early stage consumer packaged goods founders, and this work that we're doing of bringing people who are at similar stages of business together so that they can learn from each other and then have access to people who are stages ahead of them so that you can help them. Like, that is transformative to them. Why? Because they have access to all the information, all of it, right? Endless articles and webinars. But because all of that is available, it all starts to blend together. And what people really want is connection. You, right now, if you are building something or if you are aspiring to build something, you have the opportunity to be the connector, to bring the people together. And when you do that, you don't just add value to them, but you create exponential value, because when they connect with each other, if you bring customers together and they connect with each other and they find value with each other, that value gets transferred onto you. Everything that we do needs to be thinking about connection right now in a world in which we are increasingly digitized. Going back to what is human will be the differentiator.
That is so powerful. That's exactly what our intention with the AI for Business Summit and the community that we have here is, that authentic communication. And on that topic, what is the best way for our people to authentically connect with you and communicate with you? Where do you want them to go?
Oh, well, I really appreciate it. So first of all, everybody, thanks for being here with me. Francis, thanks for the great conversation. It's the things that I already put in there, but I'll do it again. So jasonfeifer.com/newsletter gets you my newsletter. I will tell you something, and because this is how deeply I believe in connection. When people subscribe to my newsletter, if you hit reply, you reply to my inbox, like my email. It shows up. I guarantee you I will respond. It may take me a little time because my inbox gets crazy, but I guarantee you I will respond. That to me matters the most. If I could just say like one other thing about connectivity is, how do I say this? It is the responding to somebody, just simply engaging with someone is the easiest and most impactful thing that you will do in your day and in your career. People tell me that they have purchased something from me, for example, or whatever, because 5 years ago, they sent me an email and I responded. And it's not like I responded a lot. It's not like I didn't send them a book, worth of information. I just responded. I just heard them. People want to be heard. They want to be respected. And if you can just build into, you reply to everybody who reaches out, you reply to every DM, the more in which you build, that's going to get noisier and busier. And you lock in on that and you believe in it. The more in which you respond to people, they will trust you. And the more in which they trust you, they will buy from you. So that couldn't be more important. So I would really love for everybody to just subscribe to that newsletter. I'll say, I love the comments are so awesome, but there are also so many of them that like everything that you drop immediately disappears. So I'll just say it one more time: is you go to that and subscribe, and it's just it's been a life changer. So please do that. And also just one tiny other thing as we go, which is just AI. I just came in here and I was thinking, what other AI tools do I use? And so I'm just going to drop this in. This is a link. And in full transparency, I love this product so much that I asked them, like, hey, can I promote this to other people? And they said, we'd love you to do that. Sorry. So it's a link to like my promotion link. But anyway, this is called Kick. I just dropped it there. So Kick is it's a bookkeeping service that uses AI, and it has absolutely transformed the way in which I manage my finances. I was just a user many months ago, and I was like, guys, this is incredible, and it saves me so much time. So as we're thinking about AI and just like where could AI fit into existing things that you already do and just make your life a little better, you should totally check out Kick. So I just dropped it there. But anyway, jasonfeifer.com/newsletter for anyone who didn't see it. One more time. Thank you. And anyone, please feel free to reach out. I will respond.
Jason, powerful, amazing. It is an honor that you're here. I feel privileged to have this discussion with you guys. Let me see some love for Jason in the chats. What do you guys think about Jason? Can you guys see the strategies and the things that he shared, how they're useful for you? Those chats are blowing up. Look at awesome, excellent work.
Thanks, everybody. That's
Jason,
awesome.
Thank you for being here.
Oh man, I thank you. I appreciate you all. And like, what a special room that you guys are building here. Because I, as you can tell, I do a lot of speaking, and sometimes I go into rooms and there are a lot of people there, and they're not like the folks here right now. They're not as warm and they're not as chatty. So this is a special thing that's been created here, and it's been an honor to be a part of it.
Oh, thank you. The chats are going wild. Great information and so much powerful stuff that you just shared. Thank you so much, Jason. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of the AI for Business podcast. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit subscribe and pass it along to a friend or colleague. We appreciate you being here, and we'll catch you in the next one.